73.
73.
I was going to say 72. But
Where's your headache?
in my head,
How much?
all of it.
1 to 10.
Oh, it's about 7.
Front or back?
Uh,
Everywhere?
yeah.
Oh, that's definitely prostate.
Well, it could be. I'm going to have Chef check my prostate after
I'd
we
have
do the
Gally do it.
podcast.
She has bigger hands.
That is true. She does have man hands.
Man hands. It's a trip how she just unloaded all that weight equipment by herself.
I think she was showing off, actually.
I think she was showing off. I don't know why she had us rent the $369 piece of equipment when she knew damn well she could have just unloaded that shit and loaded it by herself.
It's amazing when you... It's amazing, though. The amazing thing is when you do something for a living,
Uh-huh.
how easy you make things
Holy
for people who don't
shit.
do it for a living. Like,
He's like, yeah, anytime you need to move some stuff, just let me know. I'm like, fucking don't think I'm not going to.
Yeah.
We just moved.
We need one of those dollies, man. That thing with the where he's kicking those
It's
wheels
just
down.
a good furniture dolly.
Yeah.
All it is. So Max Lozana, who was here this morning, the big dude, that's what he does for a living.
Yeah.
And he was just telling me, he's like, we buy these dollies, we buy the same dolly, and the one they send us is shit. He's like, so we find the good dolly. It's like $360. It's $300 to ship the fucking thing because it's oversized and the weight. He's like, we pay as much in shipping as we pay to get the good dolly. So we just got some big, huge commercial gym equipment, right? So we're like, how are we going to unload this thing? So last week we brought in a big Smith machine, vertical, horizontal plane Smith machine. And we pull up with a trailer because we want to put it in the trailer so that we can kind of, have leverage and lift it off, right? With 4 of us or whatever. And at which point we could have just used some straps and drug it into place or lifted it or put it on some dollies. But they didn't have the forklift.
They didn't have the forklift driver.
They didn't know how to drive it or whatever it was. So they're like, well, we can, if you want to hook the trailer, we can just walk out off the dock onto the flatbed and put it there. I'm like, okay. So we do that, but it takes us like fucking 3 hours to get the thing off of the trailer because it's just the weight and the people we had with us, we couldn't manage it. So this time, I'm like, okay, we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to rent a high lift forklift with a boom so we can just unload the shit easily. So $360. We've got the thing on site. We've got our bases covered. We pull up. We're ready to put all this shit. And he's like, man, I wish you guys had a trailer. And we're like, well, we had a trailer last time.
Yeah,
but you guys couldn't get the shit down to the trailer. That's why we just did this. He's like, I got a forklift. I'll just run this shit right out the door and bring it right to your car, which they did. So we ran back, got the trailer, and so the dude who's running the forklift, he moves all this gym equipment for a living. For the last 8 years, that's all he's done is move gym equipment. So we get here, and he's like, I can just unload that off the deck of the truck. We had 2 big pieces up on the big deck, and then the rest was in the trailer.
Well, what's the weight? What's the max weight on one of those things? Is it a 200-pound plate? Can you lift 200 pounds in there? What's the stack inside that?
The stack is 200 pounds.
200 pounds. So just the stack was 200 pounds plus the whole fucking machine.
And this dude just twisted it over to the edge, put it on this dolly. We're like, I get the dolly, but how are you going to get it from 5 feet in the air to the ground? He goes, well, I'm just going to tilt it back and slide it down, let the dolly slide. And he did, man. Yeah. And then when he's done, he just like kicks his feet. The dude weighs, what do you think he weighs, 350?
At least 350.
Big boy. Like when they say Haas, that's this. Like Kent used to be Haas. Kent is no longer Haas.
No, this guy's
This
Haas.
dude, holy shit, it'd be like fucking walking into a side of beef. He just like jumps down and like lands on his ass. He's like, I got bad legs. I'm like, you keep doing that shit, you're gonna have a bad everything.
Oh, man.
So we got 102 comments here.
Really? We must have
a lot of a couple people just going back and forth. But we still got this stuff here from Friday, so we'll just rip right into this. Awesome podcast. Finally ordered a tool bag. Tool Pods organizers needed a good tool bag for road calls at work as a diesel tech. Hey, Silent Sniper, man, we could use some dieseling. We got a couple diesels. Always need some teching. You'll like that tool bag, man. It's fucking great piece of gear. Love the podcast, guys. Do either of you know anything about Cornbread Mafia?
Well, we know the Cornbread Mafia here, but it's not the same thing as the Cornbread Mafia you're talking about.
No.
We did talk about it in the last podcast.
So are the people in Tennessee calling the Civil War the War of Northern Aggression?
No.
That Maddow woman apparently lost 50% of her viewers after Mueller report came out and branded most of MSN basically liars. Well, we fucking always knew that.
Yeah, I mean, she was basically doing the Alex Jones for the liberals, and it was the number one show, right? So you had the number one show, but you had to go crazy. And she was going crazy in order to get those viewerships. And when there was Democrats it didn't just happen. There were some Democrats that were kind of putting on the brakes a little bit and going, hey, maybe this thing's not going to be what we think. And instead of tamping it down, she revved it up, which I think if she would have tamped it down a little bit, she would have been fine. But she was already soaring off that cliff. So it's only understandable that she lost all those viewers, because the reality is for the last 2 years, she's been lying to everyone that's been following her.
Just imagine listening to that bullshit for over 2 years. Turns out it was complete nothing burger. Same applies here in Netherlands for the very much left-leaning public broadcasters who have egg on their face. I hope now they will go after the people behind the FISA warrants. Very entertaining podcast as always. My 4th SOE package this year arrived. Can't wait to see Mardi Gras bag.
You have to understand, with that though, you have to understand that the deep state or the permanent government that tried to get Trump on collusion, they're still there. They're not gone. Yeah, Comey's gone, but Comey was a fucking idiot. The people that actually do that stuff, they're still there. They're not going to go after the FISA warrant, because for them to do that, for them to start investigating, for example, even Hillary Clinton, for them to start those investigations is for them to say we were fucking wrong, and they're never wrong. So all that stuff is just going to get swept under the carpet, and what you're going to see is the FBI. You're going to see those organizations kind of play hands off with Trump for now. They're going to let fucking Trump do whatever the fuck he wants, because they do have egg on their face, because the assumption was that just by creating the investigation, there would be enough momentum that they never would have had to find anything. That in itself would destroy Trump. So there's the rub, right? Eventually the investigation is going to have to end. And the Democrats put all their fucking heart and soul in that. Remember, just prior to this coming out, they were like, we have to do everything we can to protect Mueller. We have to protect Mueller from Trump. And now that they got the findings that they didn't want, they're talking about how Mueller is the problem. Mueller's the fucking problem now. Here's the thing. That is the liberal Democratic agenda. They have fucking lost their minds. That's just their agenda. They lost their minds. They will eat their own. That's what they will do. They will eat their own.
Robert, man, Netherlands. Netherlands seems cool. So I follow this oddities page on Instagram, and every day they pop up with like crazy shit that I would want, like chimpanzee heads. Or a whole baby chimpanzee in a jar,
Right.
Like crazy, like fucking extinct animals, right? They've got them all taxidermy and shit. Like shit, Darwin actually went out and killed himself. But it's in this place in the Netherlands, they can have fucking anything they want. Here in the United States, they're like, that's an endangered species. Netherlands is like, fuck you, it's dead. If it was so important, you should have kept it alive.
Yeah.
So, weapons collection says CSU gets all kinds of military vehicles. They have a forestry service program where they convert LMTV, Deucers, 5 tons, etc. into a rural area fire engines. I believe they buy from GSA, but lots of vehicles just sitting on the site. Google Maps, Fort Collins, Colorado. That's exactly what it is. Any state or local law enforcement for that matter.
Yeah, they don't even have to buy them.
They just get them. They have to stay on their books. They get them for literally $5. They have to stay on their books for 2 years. Once they've been on the books for 2 years, they can take and auction them. That's how you see these law enforcement departments auctioning off so much military heavy equipment. Once they're on the books, 2 years.
I can't think of the name of it here in
USGovLiquidations.com.
No, yeah, but if you go to it's not Cumberland. It may be Cumberland City Sheriff's Department. Like if you drive by the sheriff's department out there, they have as many military vehicles in their back lot parked there just waiting as we had in our motor pool when I was in 19. They have all law enforcement agencies, and I'm sure forestry falls into that same category, is they have first right of refusal. So anything that the U.S. government is going to dermo, anything, it could be a fucking aircraft carrier, they have first right of refusal. Yeah, they have first right of refusal.
How do you get one? How would we get it here?
We'd have to cut it up in a bunch of pieces and have it trucked here.
No.
Well, we could weld it back up.
We got some guys that come in here that do heavy.
I don't know about an aircraft. It'd have to be like a pocket carrier that they had in World War II.
They could move it. The problem is the road couldn't handle it.
But so, anyways, that's the thing. They can they have first right of refusal, and that's on everything, man. Even like when I was in the Marine Corps and we'd go to dermo, they would in the secure cage. They would have things that in the secure cage that, like, you're like, what law enforcement agency is going to use a 240 Golf or whatever, you know? But they get first right of refusal, and every one of them now. But that's how that works. Same thing with the trucks, but they have to keep them on their books.
We have traffic ticket warrant execution. We have to fucking execute these warrants on these traffic tickets. Get the Golf.
They have to keep them on the books for certain, like John said, for a certain amount of years before they can get rid of them. Now, the Forestry Service, the Forestry Service is doing what the government intended.
Like, that's a fucking legit application.
That's a legit application. If they're converting them over for firefighting, for what do they call that? Wilderness firefighting.
What about the Forestry Service SWAT teams for executing warrants on illegal pine branch?
Illegal pine
cone theft.
Pine cone theft. They're actually doing what the government intended. What your law enforcement agencies down here are doing is they're holding on. They're keeping it on their books just long enough to the day that they can auction that shit off, and then that's how these agencies are getting. I wouldn't say black money, but it's off the books money. It's not coming out of the city budget, and they don't have to raid somebody's house and steal all their stuff to get it. They just sell these fucking vehicles, and every year they're probably getting. I bet they get a good chunk of money out of those vehicles.
Having a hell of a pizza party.
Yeah, having a hell of a pizza party.
For the best tractor and equipment porn, get a subscription to Tractor House magazine. It lists auctions all over the U.S. I think you can get that like at Tractor Supply.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that, man. There's so many cool tractors.
Jeff has a tractor story from this weekend. Tell it. It's just like my fucking truck story. Holy shit, Tennessee! What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
It's weird. This will be the first vehicle that I have bought, and it's not first tractor anyways. And so I go to Kubota and I'm trying to buy this tractor. So the first time I went, I wasn't sure which tractor I wanted. So he did up 2 quotes, and he's like, go ahead and take those home and think about it. Well, the Kubota dealer's an hour away from my house, so it's not like I'm zipping up there after work to go to buy a tractor. And understand, I have never gone to buy a vehicle, ever. In 50 years, I've never gone to buy a vehicle.
How old are you?
I'll be 50 this year.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You're way fucking older than I am.
I've never gone to buy a vehicle where I left the lot without a vehicle. Yeah, you're there for 19 hours, but you know what I'm saying? You put the time in and you're buying a vehicle.
I never went to buy a vehicle where I spent more than an hour on the lot until.
It's always in you're always inside with the fucking. Let me pretend I'm going to get you a deal and come back out.
That's what I told him. Like, let's just skip this bullshit. And go ahead. Sorry.
But anyways, the tractor guy is like, take these home and check them out. Now, the Kubota dealer is only open till noon on Saturday. This is what I think. This is why I think he sent me home again. So
or he couldn't run the financing anyway.
I drive up there. I think I have picked the tractor I want. I think I'm buying a tractor. So I drive up to Clarksville, go to the bank, get me a cashier's check for the down, go up there.
Like a sizable down, not like $1,000 either.
Yeah,
like
a real
over 10 G's.
So I go do this, get there, and he's like, as soon as he sees. So first off, I sit on a lawnmower in their showroom for probably.
Is Gina there?
No, Gina had to work. So I'm sitting there for probably 25 minutes.
You should have gassed
just
that place
sitting on
out.
a tractor.
You should have just started it.
The first, just sitting there on this fucking lawnmower.
Every Kubota key works in every Kubota.
There's 2 employees inside the building, and they've walked by. One waved at me, whatever. And I'm just sitting there. Finally, guy comes out and he goes, "Are you waiting for John?" And I go, "I'm waiting for whoever's in that corner office." And he goes, "Oh, I'll go find him." And so he goes out and he's walking around, and then the dude comes in the door. And he comes in the door, and I go, "I was here last week." And he goes, "Oh, did you bring some money?" I go, "Yep, let's buy a tractor." So we go in his office, sitting there, and I'm like, this is the tractor I want, but I want to add some implements to it because there's other stuff that I feel like if I don't get the implements now, whatever. So he's like, "Great time to do it. 0% financing. You 0% financing. You 0%." I'm like, I get it. 0% financing. I don't want to do 0% financing. I want to do 72 months, which is 0.99% financing.
What's their zero? How long? 3 months?
60 months. Which is, I just wanted to drop the payment just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. So I'm like, let's just do 72 months, blah. And he goes, "No problem. It's 0.9, whatever." He's like looking it up. He goes, "Oh, you could get some more stuff." I go, "This is what I need, blah, blah, blah." So he works it up, gets my sheets out. He's writing on my sheets. And I go, "But I am not going." He goes, "0 down, 0%. I go, "I'm not going to do 0 down.
I want my payment lower.
I want my payment lower. Here's my, I already got you." He goes, how much you gonna put down? I go, "I got it right here. Here's the check." And he's like, "Oh." So he writes it down at the bottom of my sheet, and then he goes, "You should keep that." And I go, "Okay." So I put it back in the envelope. And he keeps talking about 0% financing. I'm like, this fucking check already has your guys' name on it. And he's talking about 0% financing. Then he goes and photocopies the sheet that I already have from the first time, except it's got the 2 new implements on there that I want. And he gives it to me. And he goes, "All right, here's the..." Which is weird, too, because you would think he would just get on the computer and fill it out. He goes, prints out their financing sheets, two pages. Prints it out. He goes, "You're probably going to want to take that home and do it." And I'm like,
"No, motherfucker. I want this goddamn tractor now."
I went to the bank and got this money. And he's like, "You're probably going to want to take that home to do it." And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I could fill this all out right now. I'm thinking, I could fill this all out right now. And he goes,
"Did I tell you 0% financing?"
Yeah, he's like, 0% financing, you're good to go. But then he goes, I'm like, I have the check. And he goes, "You should hold on to that." He goes, you hold on to that till we finalize this bad bear, and then give me the check, because I don't want to be responsible for that. I'm like,
"Your people. I don't want your people looking for this."
Yeah,
check.
he goes, "I don't want," in case his thing was, in case something happens to you or me in between the time we get this tractor, I don't want your people looking for the check. And it was just,
it should have been like, "This shit happened to you a lot."
It was fucking hilarious. And then he gave me a 10-minute speech about how you plant a garden. and then he just
tractor?
Yeah, and then he was just like, "Okay, so you're gonna take that home, fill it out. All you got to do is email it to me, blah blah blah." And at this point, I'm like, okay, maybe he's right. Maybe I do need to take this home.
Like, what the fuck?
It'll just be easier if Gina fills it out anyways. They'll be able to read it. And so I'm like, I'll just take it home. And I left. Well, I didn't think about it until I told Chef this story this morning. And then I was like, holy fuck. It was a quarter to noon. It was 11:45 when I left Coleman Tractor. They close at noon. That's what that whole thing was I'm going fishing. I ain't got time to do paperwork on a new tractor.
Isn't that weird, man? Like, every motorcycle shop I've been to, they close at like noon or 1 or 2 on the weekends on Saturday. And none of them are open Sunday. You walk into a fucking motorcycle shop, tractor shop, car shop in San Diego, right? And I know we're fucking comparing Tennessee to San Diego all the time, but only when it's in our benefit.
Yeah.
Like, I walk into Fun Bike Center, which I've done 3 or 4 different occasions, right? And I'm like, I want to buy this thing. And then I'm like, looking at I want to buy this one. Go ahead and give me 2 of those. I've never like bought less than 3 motorcycles or 3 ATVs
Yeah.
or 3 dirt bikes, always. Like, and you're there till like 10 at night,
Yeah.
you know? They don't give a shit because there's 5 other motherfuckers there at 10 o'clock at night also buying,
Yeah.
you know, $25,000, $40,000 worth of shit. Not here. Not here. You could walk in at fucking noon to Bob's fucking House of Honda over here, which I bought 2 razors in there
Yeah.
and 2 fucking, I bought the R6 there and I bought something else in there. But you walk in there with fucking 10 grand cash in hand.
in hand.
They're like, oh, come back Monday.
Yeah, come back, Monday.
Motherfucker, I'm spending this money this weekend. I am going to have a fucking bike.
Shit.
And
Just
then,
different.
they call you on Monday because they've been talking to you, right? And you're like, I told you I was going to buy a motorcycle this weekend. Like they just,
I already bought it.
I don't get it, man.
It's weird.
So, what implements you getting?
I'm getting tiller. I'm getting a post hole digger with a 12-inch blade and a 24-inch. 24-inch. I'm getting a 6-foot
Bush hog?
bush hog.
You know that's what we have, right?
Yeah, I'm getting a 6-foot bush hog.
You know I bush hog like 2 acres, right?
Yeah.
You know you bush hog 17 acres, right?
Well, that's the biggest I can get for
'Cause of
my
the tractor.
Yeah, for my tractor.
Man,
6 foot.
you need one of those ones they have on the side of the freeway, like the bat wing,
No,
that's
it'll be all right.
hinges and shit.
It'll be all right. So 6 foot, and then I got the
You should buy an extra tractor to pull the big fucking.
I got
you
a-
need 2 tractors. Hook your
an auto
craftsman up
hitch.
to the back so you can pull with one and push with the
Yeah.
other. An auto hitch.
Yeah,
How's that work?
It's basically it hooks all your 3-point hitch together, and then you just back up
Holy shit!
and
that
hook
sounds,
it right onto the fucking implement.
That sounds fucking.
So
awesome.
instead of like we do out here with the John Deere, where you have to hook 3 things up,
and none of them match the other thing.
all you have to do is hook the PTO up.
Although,
That's
like
it.
Eli, did you see Eli last time when he dropped the bush hog and shit? Eli, like, I don't know how he does it, man. He'll have that motherfucker unhooked in under a minute and something else hooked back
Yeah,
up.
he just
and
knows
he'll
how
have
to-
all your shit wire,
Yeah.
like he'll have wires through it so you don't lose any of the bushings. Holy shit! Eli needs to come give a class on how to change all that shit out. I guess we don't need it anymore though.
It would
if
be-
you got auto hitch.
It would be 100%. Eli would come and go, do this, do this, do this, and then when we go to do it, there would be a piece that wouldn't. It would be like
Match.
this doesn't even move. How did he do that?
Yeah.
Always.
Makita still makes a ton of tools. They have them at Lowe's. All right, here's the deal.
Okay, here's the deal, Makita.
Bring all your yellow stuff here, and I'll take that.
No.
And you go get all new Makita. If Makita made some shit and other than like that terrible fucking color, I might actually would buy some Makita shit.
I don't. I will specifically seek out Makita, but I do
think
not
when
believe.
Makita was the first like
Mm-hmm.
charger shit, right? I mean, maybe Radio Shack had some shit or something, but Makita like could have chose any color.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll take this fucking worst color in the world because nobody will ever want it. One day there will be a red drill, and there'll be a fucking yellow drill, and there'll be some other NASCAR shit. Let's pick the one color that fucking nobody in the world would want.
The other thing is, I don't believe. I'm sure that Makita makes like a drill.
Well,
and
there's a- so
but
there's
they're
a
just
dude-
they're just not going to be.
I saw a lot of
competitive.
comments on it. The dude's like, I've worked for 5 years repairing cordless tools. That's my job. He goes, we never saw Makita come in and get fixed. But my thought was, that's because nobody buys fucking Makita.
Yeah, I mean, I get you. I got a fucking DeWalt that is 10 years old and it still works.
Yeah.
And I fucking use my drills.
The only thing that goes wrong, I have one that the batteries go dead, right? So you just get new
batteries are
batteries
dead.
for it. But you know what's in those batteries? C batteries, C
Yeah,
rechargeables.
C cells.
So if you got a buddy that works at, I don't know, Battery Junction,
They
they will just send you a box of batteries.
there's actually somebody
Yeah.
that makes the chain. That's okay. So they're wired.
like
They're all
yes.
wired together. So they make the battery that's completely wired together. So all you have to do is open yours, throw the old ones out,
Yep.
slap the new one in, and fucking.
I've got a DeWalt drill that when you turn it on, you see sparks,
Those are the best.
and it smells like it's on
fire.
fire. Like
Yeah.
the next day, you come out in the garage and you're like, I wonder if that thing melted down. And you go up to it and you're like, nope, it just smells like it was on fire, but it
yeah.
still runs. On your breakfast, as far as the white shoe thing goes, my wife is a nurse, and she got a pair of white 6-inch stilettos with Red Cross logo, and I got to say I'm a big fan. Of course, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. That's not what I'm talking about, and you know it. Aaron Rippentrop. On your breakfast video, you were talking about the cleaning lady that found a penis in a jar. With you guys being in California, do you remember the shipping container full of fetuses? I don't remember it. It actually happened in the early 90s. We actually talked about that not too long ago.
Yeah.
It was 17,000 fetuses. It was an abortion clinic, and they actually found that shipping container. The dude defaulted on his house or something, and they came to the ship. He didn't pay the payments on the shipping container, so they came to repo the container. They got it back to the shipping container yard, opened it up, and there was over 17,000 fetuses, different stage abortions in there. And they took it to the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, where it sat for another 2 years in the fucking heat and just festered as they cataloged and went through all this shit. There's a couple of YouTube videos. It's pretty fucking crazy. We talked about it.
Yeah, we've talked about it. I'm just thinking. I wonder at what point. If they repoed the fucking...
Oh, here he is. Yeah, he said exactly what I just said. It was a total of 17,000.
If they repoed the container, at the point that they set that container down in their yard, are they now liable for the... Are they now responsible for what is in that container?
So they called the police, and then they moved the container to the coroner, and it sat at the coroner's office stinking for over 24 months. Let's see what he says. There was a total of 17,000 found in the house, garage, and shipping container. Guy bounced a check with the company, repossessed the container. It was too heavy to lift onto the truck, so they had to empty it. They opened the door, and jars started rolling out. The workers finally realized what was in the jar when someone broke, and they could see fetuses and body parts. There are videos on YouTube about it. So a lot of the babies were actually just thrown in there. They were not all in jars. The jars, there were several jars and all kinds of different biopsies and arms and different shit in jars in his house, as well as in his office.
That's sick, dude.
How old is your oldest employee? I always hear you say the sewing ladies. Is there men that sew, or is it primary women? I'm not looking for a job this morning. Going on 11 years right now. We have 9 years, 10 years, 11 years. And it is all ladies. Every time I have taught a man how to sew, or hired a dude that said he could sew, I've created a competition for myself. They never stay. Every time we've been stolen from, it's one of those dudes. Every time we have found video of dudes photocopying files. We even had dudes calling up vendors and having shit shipped to alternate addresses saying that we had set up another business. We had products stolen. It's never been a lady. It's always one of these dudes, because dudes have an interest in this stuff, so there's something to steal. Women inherently, they just don't have an interest in tactical gear. Not all of them. There's definitely some chicks out there, but it's never been a lady who is going to learn how to build your shit and then go out on the internet and try to sell. Yeah, I work at SOE. Here's this other shit. You can buy it from me cheaper. It's always been a dude, though. Every single time. Even confidential informant number 1 on my case was that. And number 2 was a dude that worked for me that was selling our shit to him on the side early Saturday mornings. And we literally found video of them months after the raid, of them actually in there tracing patterns out on newspaper and taking it and photocopying all of our vendor list and shit. So no, we don't. It's always women. We hire dudes. We don't teach them that aspect of the business, though. We definitely have work always for the right people, but we don't teach them how to compete with us. You were talking about auctions and buying old police cars, amongst other things. Some departments have the cars keyed the same. One key will open and start other cars. A lot of heavy equipment is also keyed the same. Just a heads up for people buying municipal vehicles from auction. Good info.
Yeah, that is good.
Random question. Why do you guys think we didn't implement more propane-powered cars years ago? I heard that, like, the propane-powered buses, I heard it was burning up the buses. I heard it was destroying them.
Yeah, and propane sucks, guys.
It's great. It's great for a barbecue.
It's great for a barbecue. It's great to heat your house, but it's terrible for a vehicle. And the reason why is when it's in the cylinder. So when they put it into your vehicle, it's as you use it, it creates more volume space within the cylinder. So even though, and the only reason why I know this is because me and Travis Mitchell totally fucked up a propane powered.
That's right.
A propane powered van. They gave us this propane powered van, and they're like, take this down to MCRD and go do what you got to do, and then you can come back. So we're like, okay, boom, propane power, let's get on it. So we drive all the way down to MCRD.
Does it smell different? Perform different? Anything?
No, not really. It performed.
I know a lot of Jeep guys like it that aren't running fuel injection because it's constant pressure, so you don't lose, like a carbureted vehicle.
So we drive all the way down to MCRD. We're like we're at like a quarter tank of fuel in this thing, and so we start driving around trying to figure out where to get the fuel for this. So they didn't have a station that this is back in the 90s. They didn't have a station for it on MCRD, so we're fucking driving around out in town trying to figure out how to fucking put fuel in this thing. Finally, we couldn't find anything, and every gas station that we went to, they're like, that doesn't even match our, that had propane. They were like, that doesn't even match our shit.
Yeah, you're not over at the fucking co-op.
So we end up going back to MCRD. Next morning, we're like, well, we're just going to have to risk it. So it won't start. It will not fucking start. It will not start. So we get on the phone, we call Camp Pendleton, and we're like, hey, we're here with this van. It won't fucking start. Something wrong with it. They're like, we're gonna send a wrecker out. So a guy shows up, and he's like, what's wrong with it? We go, we don't know. It won't start. And he's like, how much fuel you got? He goes, we're like, it's a quarter of a tank. He goes, oh, that's where you fucked up. We're like, what? He goes, you shouldn't go below half a tank in these things.
Holy shit.
And he explains it to us about the volume because it just creates more, as you use the fuel, it creates more volume within the tank. What he means is
it made a bigger bomb.
Yeah, even though the tank is saying that you have a quarter of a tank, there's not enough pressure to push that through the system. So you have to keep it at half a tank. We're like, we couldn't even have made it down here then. And he's like, well, the people who told you that gave you this van should have told you all that shit. I go, they didn't tell us shit. They just gave us the keys. And so he filled up the tank. He pressurized the tank. As soon as he pressurized it, started right up. But yeah, those fucking vehicles, there is a lot of problems with them. They do run hotter than a regular vehicle. And
I heard they're burning pistons up really fast in school buses.
They run a little bit hotter.
And the city buses in San Diego.
The city buses, so that's why we haven't gone propane, and it's just a fucking pain in the ass.
Are you better to blow up a full tank of propane or a half tank of propane?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
And if it's your own tank of propane on your own property, is it a crime to blow up the tank of propane? I think it's something federal.
Well, I mean, you could get trapped in the idea of the minute you decide something is, the minute you change something from a usable device to an explosive device, you've created a felony in theory. So if you take a propane tank out to the range and you're going to shoot it to blow it up,
right,
you technically are creating a bomb.
Like Molotov cocktails are illegal.
I mean, to have,
unless you pay your $50 tax.
Yeah,
$200 tax.
I wonder when you do a tax stamp for a Molotov cocktail, I wonder if do they stamp it on the rag that you're going to put in there, or do they write it on the bottle?
And what happens if your bottle of gas evaporates before you use it?
Can you
just refuel it, or does that become a different incendiary device? And he goes on to say, and why isn't the idea being pushed harder today? The technology's been around for a pretty damn long time. Nice cars at the food bank thing. I'm never close to a food bank, but it's crazy how I see a bunch of nice, new, expensive vehicles like Camaros and full-size diesel trucks in the parking lot of low-income apartment complex and 15 miles up the road. There's a little more to that, too, at the low-income housing. It's mostly because a lot of those chicks are fucking whores, and they're easy to fuck. So dudes who want a little bit of excitement just go over there to the ghetto and tear that pussy up and leave no strings attached. There's actually a lot to that. It's easy to appeal to people who have nothing when you have a little bit, thus the new cars. They can go over there for that booty call and bring her a fucking flower and a fucking ho-ho and a box of cigarettes, and she'll up the pussy cheaper than fucking, the risk of a fucking prostitute. Like, I know that sounds crude, but that's 100% fucking true. Senate rejected AOC's Green New Deal 57-0.
Hey.
It's not new either. It was out in 1971? It's actually word for word.
When you say 57-0, I want you to think about that. 57-0.
Even her own people.
She didn't vote for it. She didn't even vote for it.
Did she not? Oh,
because she's dumb. What the Democrats did is they marked present. So you can do three things. You can vote no, you can vote yes, or you can mark present. Present means that you're there, but you're not sure. It's the chicken shit way. It's the chicken shit way not to put your name on something, because when re-elections come around, if you're a Democrat and you're in a predominantly red state, you can go, I didn't vote for it. But you're not really on record as saying you didn't vote for it. You're not really saying no. Same thing when you get, when you're around your liberal friends, you can go, I didn't vote no for it.
I just didn't vote for it. Hilti is the best power tools out there, but goddamn is the stuff expensive. And then at 38 minutes, 23 seconds, how are you not in jail, Phil? Goddamn, laugh my ass off. Who's Phil? Who?
I don't know.
Phil would be in jail.
Phil Cheney?
No fucking way. Phil Cheney's
Phil Cheney's a Boy Scout. He's like a Boy Scout.
The Eagle Scout. Holy shit.
He's like a fucking total Boy Scout.
He's the fucking poster boy for the Marine Corps.
You have to be talking about some other
different Phil. Best power. I didn't know Hilti. I just know Hilti nail gun, runs off of a 22 little primer, a 22 blank. Heard about you guys from Spirco almost 2 months ago, and now I'm hooked on the podcast. You guys are dead on about Spirco. So Spirco actually had a fucking huge role in me leaving California. A very big role in kind of taking me away from like crazy fucking prepper to a successful businessman who is just also happens to be prepared. I was living waiting for society to collapse. I was amassing fucking large amounts of storage shit to the point like when we threw away expired chicken, we threw away fucking $6,000 worth of canned chicken. And that, I mean, just like we probably threw away 20 grand worth of canned meat that, I don't know, it might have been okay, but why risk that, right? And just
Cats
one day,
it.
Jack's like, "Look, you can do all this shit, but why don't you just live your life? You can still." And that was on a show. I was hearing that, but at the same time, I was talking to Jack. Like we spoke one-on-one and through email and stuff. But that was kind of the thing. Like he's right. Why I'm like waiting for something to happen that hasn't happened, and I'm 35, 40 years old, and it hasn't fucking happened. Why am I going to live another 40 years waiting for this thing to happen that hasn't happened? We're pretty well prepared for it. Why don't we just fucking go live, enjoy ourselves, and then if something happens, we will kind of reroute that direction.
We'll eat the dead.
Yeah, we'll fucking eat whatever the fuck we have to eat. You guys are dead on about buying property and have zero in your bank account that's not actually zero. We were just talking about that today. As a matter of fact, I did a live feed on the way back to get the trailer. I was just talking exactly that. That's what needs to be taught in school. Hoping in a couple of years I can sell my property for a profit and get the fuck out of New York. Keep up the good work. So, New York, I have to assume, is just like California. Yeah, everybody in California, New York's like, I gotta get out of here. Shit, I had 3 fucking police officers here Friday from New York. They're like, I got 10 years to retire and I'm getting the fuck out. I got 5 years to retire, I'm getting the fuck out. My wife has 14 more years and then we're getting the fuck out. You don't realize how fucking, like, you can step out of New York and go, I can breathe. I fucking, literally, the weight is less on my body. But until you actually are gone and go back there a year or two later, like, you don't realize how fucking insane and what you will live with what you'll tolerate. Like, if you accept it, you will tolerate it. So you don't realize how fucking bad it is. And like, I used to say those things, But then having Jeff and not even telling him or voicing my opinion and him saying it, I'm like, holy shit. And then we meet other dudes that are in the same position and they say the same shit. And we're well removed, like people we've never met before. You don't realize how fucked you are until you do leave. And I'll bet that you can sell your property for quite a bit when you do leave. Even if you sold it for less than market value, it's still exponentially skyrocketing.
Big chunk of change down here, but if you're from New York City, please don't move to California. Or you move to California, don't move to to Tennessee, please.
Like
just
wherever you move, like
go to Florida, like most New Yorkers do.
You hear us talk about, like just on this podcast, man, I'd go at 10 o'clock and buy 3 motorcycles. That's not going to happen here. But don't come here and be mad that your neighbor has a fucking couch in the front yard. Unless you own all the property that your neighbor also lives on. Then you can dictate what happens. But don't come here and try to change it. If you don't like what your neighbor's doing, plant a bunch of fucking trees or bamboo or something. Like, that's the fastest way. Like, you see Nashville fucking becoming California quickly because of those motherfuckers. That's what they should teach in school. Jeff's got a pretty good take on what they should teach senior year in school.
I did. Senior year in school shouldn't be anything but, doing your taxes, how to fucking tie your shoes.
How to fucking do a checkbook.
How to do a checkbook. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't learn anything your last year in high school except how to live in the real world. That's it. It should just be everything about living in the real world. And to include, bring back fucking home ec, teach everybody there how to make a fucking sandwich or whatever, so that people can go out into the real world and live. How do you fucking run a washing machine? I mean, they should be teaching all that shit, because there is way too many people that are leaving school, going on to more school, that still don't know how to fucking balance their checkbook. It amazes me every time I hear, I listen to a lot of podcasts that have some very, very educated individuals on it, but educated to the point that they went to school, took out a whole bunch of debt, and then now are mad that they have to pay that debt back. That is fucking completely ridiculous.
That's gonna be
your fucking dumbass is the one that took on that debt. Your dumbass is the one that should have to pay for it. It's nobody's fault but your own. All the bullshit that they say about, they were forcing us to do. Nobody was forcing you to do shit. You just thought that you were gonna fucking go go graduate college with a fucking degree in fine arts and think you were gonna make millions of dollars when nobody in fine arts was making millions of dollars. It's just
that's
your
gonna
own
be your
fault.
next. Remember that housing bubble everybody talks about? That ain't gonna be shit compared to fucking when everybody defaults on these fucking student loans. And then your pensions, all these fucking people making money, waiting, fucking socking it away for that pension. That shit ain't coming.
Here's the thing about student loans, though. That
when you file bankruptcy, you still pay your student fucking loan.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's things about the student loans when they talk about the interesting thing about that bubble is that bubble technically cannot pop. It can't pop. The reason why it can't pop is, like John just said, there is nothing you could do outside of dying that keeps you from paying your student loans.
They'll pass that shit to your fucking kin.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do outside of dying that keeps you from paying your student loans. So if everybody in the program tomorrow went bankrupt, the federal government would still be going, you better remake that rent money, bitches. I feel like they would just start putting people in jail the same way they do with child support guys.
Yeah.
So pay your fucking student loans. Quit being a bitch.
That's a trip here. Like, so in San Diego, like child support guys, right? You got to go a couple years before they lock you up. And when you go in there and you cry and you're like, I'll make the payment, I promise, they're going to let your ass out. Not here. They're going to come, they're going to lock your ass in jail until your fucking family members or you con somebody on the outside to pay that note. Your ass just going to stay in jail for fucking years. Amassing that. And it's another trip here too. They're like, hey, we're here to arrest you. Grab a toothbrush. Like, they don't give you a toothbrush in jail here. No. I haven't seen jail here, but I have heard the fucking stories.
Bring your go bag.
Makita is at Home Depot. Do you guys... Hey, I got another question. So some dudes were like, yeah, I'm doing 20 in the Army, and I'll be a millionaire when I get out. Is that true?
If you... So, because they have the TSP now, They're trying to get rid of retirement.
So let's say a dude's been in 15 years now. They've switched to this TSP thing.
He could easily, if he's got 5 years left, if he maxes out,
fucking good to go.
Yeah, if he maxes out, he could easily leave. There's no reason why he couldn't pop out of there with $100,000.
Good to go.
But if you like a Lance Corporal, you fucking join the Army right now. They force you to put 1% in the TSP.
Okay.
So you mandatory have to put 1% in there. Let's say you're over the course of your Marine Corps career, so you can. I want to say 10 is as high as you can go.
Okay.
But if you're like, okay, I'm gonna fucking go 6%, and you put 6% in, and you let that ride, the fucking, especially once you get to $100,000. Once you get to $100,000, your money just fucking boom. So it's no problem. A guy joining the Army right now, there is no reason why you should not leave the military as a millionaire.
So, let's say you got $100,000 in there.
Okay.
Right? How long does it take to get that? 5 years? 10 years?
Well,
because once you have 100, it goes exponential. I mean, it's big
so,
after that.
So I had it for 4 years.
Okay.
I maxed I want to say it was 9%. So I had it for 4 years,
Did
5
you take
years.
Whatever kind of savings you had and put it into
No,
that?
you can't. You can't
add outside.
You can't outside money. So I had it for 5 years. I put 9% in. So the way they do it is, you can put 9% of your base pay in. But if you have combat pay, all combat pays can go in there too. So I put 9% in and all my combat pay. So for those 4 years, obviously it would drop off when we were back in the rear, but for those 4 years I was putting 9% in plus all my combat pay, and in 4 years I left with $62,000.
Okay, so combat pay was just anything over and beyond your normal monthly pay, your weekly pay.
Yeah, you get
that extra little bit. You weren't putting that whole fucking.
No, it was just the combat pay, and I think I'm probably wrong. I think it's like $250 a month.
Okay,
or something
so
like
next question. Let's say you've got $100,000 in your TSP.
$100,000.
Can you pull 50,000?
Can't pull anything out of it.
So you can't use outside like a money manager or something.
You can't use until you get out or retire.
Got it.
So if you get out and you retire, they're like, you can put it in whatever you want. If you retire, same thing. They're like, put it in whatever you want, because when you get out or when you retire, you can no longer make contributions to it.
Yeah.
I was lucky. Strider started a 401k, and then they closed the 401k, and there was some loophole where I could add that to my TSP. So whatever I had there, I added to my TSP. But like, I can't make contributions from what I'm making now.
So you still have the TSP.
I still have it sitting in the TSP.
It can still just keep
and it's
rolling.
Because it's in government funds.
Nice.
So here's the thing about the TSP. If you're in the military and you're thinking, I don't want to do
fucking go do it. Holy
do
shit.
it, because the TSP.
I would fucking do it.
The TSP is it. So unlike everything else in the world, like we don't get the same medical care that that Dianne Feinstein gets. We don't get the same benefits that Dianne Feinstein gets. But the TSP is the same one that those people are putting their money in. So the TSP is fucking backed by the federal government. And in the 15, it's been longer than that, I guess, 15 years, you can put it in some scary funds. Like, they have some F funds and some E funds that have high interest rates. I don't know about those. But if you go with the government-backed funds in the TSP, they have never lost money. They have always made money. So my fucking thing is just sitting there making money every year.
And if you guys that are not in a position to use the TSP, not federal or military employees, when you're at a level, not financial liar, not like a financial advisor, but an actual true money manager, you'll hear Spirko talk about a man named John Pugliano. He has a company called Investable Wealth. You've got to have some real money for him to manage your money, but he is like, that motherfucker is going to make you money. So if you've got a chunk of money aside and you want somebody to make more money, and not have to have a bunch of crazy input, but not just in a fucking, just this mutual fund and we're going to leave it here as it ebbs and flows. Check that dude out. I have not personally used him, but I know, well, it doesn't matter what I know. Check him out. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you otherwise. You guys ever get up to land between the lakes? I'm from Marion, Kentucky area. Been gone from my old Kentucky home since '94. One of my best childhood memories is fishing and camping around Kentucky Lake. Take care, our Wiggles. We've been to Turkey Bay. I took my big truck up there, and the dude at the gate's like, you're going to get a lot of body damage in here. I'm like, it's okay. Well, you're going to have to sign these waivers. So I signed the waivers. He's like, we better give you these other waivers. So I signed the waivers. Like, there was a couple points like where Amanda got out. I saw a couple other full-size rigs on the trail, whatever. Beautiful up there. We go up there. We used to go to Tom and Patty's at the homestead there. It was for their world famous pork chop, applesauce pork chop. It burnt down. I believe they've rebuilt. It's huge. Like, you could go up there 100 times and not see all of it. There's an observatory. I think like the bison, they just auctioned off a bunch of bison from up there. I heard there's a shooting range in there that I didn't know was there. There's a lot of stuff to do. If you want to do outside shit, Kentucky Lake, it runs into Tennessee. It's in Kentucky. I lived on part of Kentucky Lake, right up the road here. It is the biggest man-made body, or was the biggest man-made body of water in the United States.
I think it's still the biggest in the United States.
I think it was the biggest until China made. Yeah,
China made some crazy ass super lake. Definitely still the biggest.
Hey, John Skully was wondering if you guys had ever heard of an experiment that was done on hypnosis and making a person kill someone and not realize they did it. Yeah, I think everybody's heard of that. Do I personally know anything about it? No. What was that? The Manchurian Candidate? Yeah, and it wasn't just hypnosis. We were fucking with it with LSD. The Russians were dealing with it with some other shit. Yeah, 100%, man. Fucking Born Identity, that whole fucking series of books was based on that. Treadstone and all that shit. James Blackwell, Killer Got Job, keep it up. John, Glock 19. It's not. It's actually John G, 19 hours ago. Just listened to the latest episode and wanted to disagree about the swamp draining. Trump is surrounded by swamp monsters, cosmopolitans, and war industry types. I honestly think he doesn't know any better. I only voted for him to not vote for Hillary, so I kept the expectation low. Edit. I'm in the spirit of unity. I would like to say we can all agree Nut and Fancy's death via chewing gum is the best case scenario. You know that motherfucker's going to die, and they're going to come fucking question me about chewing gum.
Yeah, chewing gum. You better hope he doesn't choke on chewing gum.
I hope he fucking chokes on it.
You better hope he doesn't.
I hope I hope his sister pulls it out and she chews it and chokes on it too. We can do in chewing gum the best case scenario. We can do an in-depth tabletop review of his cadaver, all the while making fun of people who chew gum. Right on, John. Right on.
I'm totally with you on the Trump thing. But here's the thing. Everything's about perspective. So Trump has been doing business with shady people his entire life. He's in the construction industry. Well, he's in the name-dropping industry, but he's in the construction industry in New York City. You don't fart in New York City without having to deal with some shady characters. He has surrounded his people. He has surrounded himself with swamp people. But you need to understand, even Trump is not as, with the people that he has surrounded himself with, is not nearly as swampy as the people that are up there in the Senate and the House right now.
No,
I mean, those people, just look how much Nancy Pelosi's worth. Look how much Dianne Feinstein's worth. I only say that because I know how much those two are worth. I am sure that there are plenty of fucking scumbags that running around with the Republican name underneath theirs. It truly is a swamp. Think about this. Only 3 of Trump's people got fucking arrested and are going to jail. I guarantee you, if you did the same thing with Hillary Clinton, there would be a whole bunch of people committing suicide.